counter.
It feels very
Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello.
Hello, and Gonzalo.
Hey.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Oh, really good, actually.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Spooky season.
Yeah, doing alright, We're finally back together at last.
Yes.
Finally back
It actually
together.
felt very
It's
nostalgic.
been a hot minute.
It felt really nostalgic to hear you run through that intro. I don't think I've heard it for a couple of episodes, so that was really nice.
You mean you don't listen?
You know,
to
you
the
could
episodes?
just, well, yeah, exactly. You
Oh,
don't
I
listen
do.
to the
I
show
do,
when you're
but I
not
skip
there.
the
Is
intro.
that it? Yeah.
I do, but I skip the intro
Oh,
and I skip
right,
around.
okay.
Because you guys ramble a lot.
He just
I like
skips
listen to
everything.
myself ramble, but...
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, so self-centered. Well, in normal tradition, on last week's episode, I once again got the next week's episode wrong. So I did say last week's episode we're going to do a Martin Scorsese episode, but that is in fact next week's episode because I got my dates mixed up. Today, carrying on our tradition of the Halloween season, we're going to be talking about the best and worst horror reboots, remakes, and sequels. There is a bunch of bad ones, and there's some pretty good ones. So we're going to run down some of our favourites here, and have a review for the new Andrew Hay film, All of Us Strangers. I guess I will just jump right into that. So, this obviously premiered at the London Film Festival. All of Us Strangers doesn't actually open until late December and January, I think, here in the UK. So this is an exclusive, guys. This was in partnership with GFT in Glasgow, so it was obviously that's how I was able to see this, which is great.
Are we sponsored? Is that what you're saying?
Kyle sadly couldn't make it, but
Ooh.
yeah, I want
be
to say how it was the partnerships that were made. So, so yes, All the Strangers was directed and written by Andrew Hay and also co-written by Taiki Yamada, and it stars Andrew Scott, Paul Mescal, Jamie Bell, and Claire Foy. So, Adam, who's played by Andrew Scott, is this screenwriter who lives alone in London in this very modern high-rise flats, and he's currently facing writer's block. He's really struggling to make his next television show. One night, seemingly his only neighbour in this entire building, Harry, who's played by Paul Mescal, comes calling to his door, and as he too feels incredibly lonely in this eerily quiet tower block. However, he feels a bit put off by Harry. He finds him a bit creepy, he finds him a bit weird, and so kind of turns him away. And in a way to find inspiration the next day, Adam then decides to return to his family home where his parents tragically died when he was a child, so he decides to try and get some inspiration when he goes back to his home village. But when he returns to his home village, he suddenly discovers that his parents are still there and haven't aged at all.
Ooh.
So that is the setup for All of Us Strangers. I won't say anything more than that. And I will say this, right? So, pretty much from really when it started, right? This is quite an insular story. This is a story really facing trauma and nostalgia and memory and basically problems we face in our own memory and things that we wish we could rewrite and things we wish we could change, and sort of how do we deal with loss in things that were left unsaid and wanting to sort of rectify and sort of amend relationships when it's far too late to do so. I think this is an incredibly directed film. This is a really, like I said, insular story. There isn't many locations, but it's unbelievably beautifully shot. It's just really cinematic. The opening transition from it's the sunrise over London. You see all these reflections on the building, and the way it transitions into Andrew Scott's flat is just absolutely beautiful. I just thought it was amazing. There's a specific club scene where drugs are used, and it becomes this almost a short film in itself, where basically you have this kind of the high life of the club and the way the camera is able to zoom, and the way it sort of it feels like the screen is sort of melting, and then it transitions into like a short horror film for a second, and there are even like horror elements in this film, which I was really surprised by. I mean, really what you're kind of experiencing is a ghost story in a sense. And like I said, you're kind of going back and having to sort of reconcile with your own memories and relationships you've had with people in the past. Andrew Scott is currently, I think he's given the best performance by a male actor this year.
Wow.
I was blown away because he plays Adam is a very awkward character.
Yeah.
He's a gay character. Andrew Scott is gay in real life,
Yeah.
and he is a very, very isolated man. He's a very awkward individual, and the way, I don't want to spoil it, but the way he sort of he shifts when he talks to different sets of characters, and it's very, very subtle, and he has a lot of emotion to carry in the film, and I was absolutely blown away.
That's
by
surprising because I know
him
how much
as-
you enjoyed
Oh.
Paul Mescal's recent performance last year, and Andrew Scott is
Yeah.
Son, get to.
Andrew Scott is an amazing actor. So having this be like one
Yes.
of the highlights of
Yeah.
his acting.
No,
career
Andrew
is-
Scott is
yeah.
he's the this is, I should say, Andrew Scott's film. He's the lead actor here. He's the lead character, and supporting, like I said, Paul Mescal's here, and he's. I think this is going to be another Oscar nomination for Paul
Wow,
Mescal.
wow.
I mean, I think he's on top of the world. I think
Wow.
in this film, at first I was, because obviously the film is very unpredictable. Actually, you kind of don't know where it's going to go, and at first, Paul Mescal's character, like I said, he's very creepy and very kind of sleazy at the start. And then what his role transitioned into is, I think, something really beautiful. And once again, I mean, like he proved in After Sun, he's one of the best, I'd say, actors working today. And he, once again, provides subtlety and pathos and power to his performance. And Jamie Bell as well. I love seeing Jamie Bell. I'm glad to see him here too. I think he was fantastic. And Claire Foy, I think, is the most underrated actress in the world. Like I said, she should have 2 Oscars
Yeah.
at this point in supporting, from First Man and Women Talking. Last year, completely snubbed in my opinion. But anyway, from an acting point of view, beautiful. From a directing point of view, really expertly crafted.
Wow.
And this is a really quite dialogue-heavy film as well, and there's a lot of... It's just really conversations, kind of what you're going through here. And it's just... Every scene is just packed with so much to unpack and unravel, and there's so much emotion, and there's so much history, and like all these conversations, and it's all brought through just the excellent writing and the acting joined together, and just the way it sort of twists reality is just, you kind of don't know. The whole film ends in a conundrum, really. It's really going to leave a lot of people... It's going to have a lot of interpretations. I love it when films do that. It's going to have a lot of people leaving and being like, well, what did actually happen here? And I love that stuff. I have my own idea of what I think the whole thing was. But if someone else could just come up to me with a different thing, I'd probably be like, okay, yeah, fair enough that you saw it that way. It's so surprising because I wasn't expecting a film like this going in. And I was just completely caught off guard and blown away. And I was the last 15 to 20 minutes, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. There were people crying for 15 minutes straight for the entire final bit of this film. Like, generally just people sniffling all across the theatre in this packed cinema.
Wow.
Because the last 2 scenes are... I'm even thinking about them now, man. They are a lot. They are incredibly emotional, and it's not contrived at all. It really, really earns its ending. And I have to give All of Us Strangers my first 10 out of 10 for the year. It's beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And just a fantastic piece of cinema. I was really blown away by just all aspects of it, and it just completely enraptured me in it.
I need to ask Lewis the question that all of our listeners are probably wondering, and is, would you say this is an Oscar contender for this year?
I was curious, right? And I think, because if they do 10 nominations, I would be shocked and hurt, actually, if it wasn't there.
Yes.
And I did see, I was more interested in the acting department, and I saw on Variety, currently they've shortlisted the 10 actors, and obviously only 5 get nominated. Andrew Scott is currently 7th, and I was like, I just don't, I can't see him not being there. And same with Paul Mescal, I can't see them not being here. Just everything they deliver here, the vulnerability, just the apps, just really, they know these characters so well, and they feel like fully fleshed out people, and it just felt it was, like I said, they just brought all the emotion to it, and I just cannot see them not being there at the Oscars this year. And having seen obviously Oppenheimer and I've not seen what the rest, like Maestro's coming out and Bradley Cooper's predicted to get a nomination and whatnot, and I don't know. I really want him there. For me, it's a better performance than what Cillian Murphy gave.
Yeah.
If Cillian Murphy's the front runner,
Yeah.
I think Andrew Scott should be the front runner as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Oliver Strangers. I will absolutely remind everyone when it comes out again in December, because I think everyone needs to see this. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So yes, that will wrap up that portion of the show.
You giving
and
it
now
a
let's
number?
move on to these horror. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You must be coming in and out for me. I completely missed that.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's
I
his
said
first.
it's my
10 out of 10
first
of the year, yeah.
my first 10 out of 10 for the year.
Yeah. Which is something, because you're quite stingy with those 10 out of 10s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really want you guys. I really want you to see it. I really want to talk to you guys about it. So yes. Anyway, horror remakes, reboots, and sequels. Kyle, let's come to you first. You know, are you going to start off with something bad here? Are you going to start off with carry on the positivity?
I will start with something bad.
Lovely.
Yeah, let's set the precedent.
Let's get negative.
Yeah, over the past weekend there, I showed my girlfriend one of my favorite horror films, 1976's
nice.
The Omen, and that got me thinking about one of the worst horror films ever made. 2006's The Omen. And yeah, so yeah, we're gonna just jump into this, right? The Omen 2006, I genuinely think only came out because of the thing. Some studio executive went, "Here, we can re-release The Omen on the 6th of June, 2006," and they went, "That's the marketing is done." Yeah, they went, "We're going to save so much money on the marketing because we don't need to do anything," and they went, "Just do it." And and also I just think it's stupid because literally on the poster it goes 6-6. But because it's 2006, it goes 06. So I'm like, it's not even 666, it's 6606. So that alone just makes.
Why didn't they just go 0606?
They should have released it.
That's confusing.
Yeah, they should have released it in 1966. Like, come on, guys, think about it.
10 years before the original.
Come on, man. Come on.
So yeah, getting into this film, right? We have to talk about the reasons why 76's Omen was incredible, and that's because. I think one of the main issues for me about this film is that the kid is creepy, which defeats the entire purpose. Because for the entire original movie, you are sitting here going, okay, all this weird stuff happening, but is this kid the Antichrist? Yeah. Right? Everything's suggested that all these things, people are there to protect him, but you're like, but the kid's so cute, nice. Until later on in the film where you find the kind of sixes on his head, you're like, oh, well, maybe he is. But throughout this entire film, this kid is fucking just creepy, right? Yeah. He is so creepy, and he's got a weird ass bowl cut that you're like,
he really does.
You're like. I mean, your
in the
parents
kid's
should have
defense. In the kid's defense, that was a weirdly popular haircut for children at that time.
Yeah, it's do you know what? It's one of those films as well that it's almost like a shot-for-shot remake, which doesn't really add anything to the original as well. Yeah. Okay, it's not a remake where a reboot where it tries to do something mildly different. I think this
it's like the Psycho remake that they did
the Vince Vaughn one where it was literally just a shot for shot.
Yeah. It's just shot for shot, but in color and less good.
It adds some aspects here because one of the things that happens is that the Catherine Ford, the mother, dating his adopted mother, starts to have dreams and visions. Okay, and in the original, she only just talks about them. You never kind of see them because it's that kind of aspect of the unknown that's quite nice. In this one, it shows you her dreams, and the dreams are it involves the jackal that was Damien's true mother, and it just looks stupid. And you're kind of like, this is the kind of thing I think is the issue of this film is that it tries to kind of go above the original. Yeah. And I'm like, in these ways, it just doesn't work. And I really
feel
do think,
like,
yeah,
given the time period when it was made, it's like that thing where like people assumed that certain choices were made because like certain effects were impossible, whereas they weren't. It was made because it's better for the movie if certain things aren't shown and just implied. Like the original movie, the whole tension of it is like you are
so
questioning
good.
during the whole time whether these adults are completely mad and this is just a normal kid. And that's what creates that fucking suspense throughout the whole thing. Because everything bad keeps happening around him, but that's just a child.
That's
And
the thing.
The counterposing of that innocence, that genuine innocence that feels innocent throughout most of the movie, with like what's going on around them, and like the fact that we don't see the mother's dream, she just talks about them, makes us question whether she's okay. Just having that level of separation between what she's experiencing and what we're seeing creates this weird kind of like, the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, and I say in fairness, I don't think in fairness. There are other entries in the Omen franchise that probably could get terrible sequels, right? The Omen 2, I actually quite like, because I think it's quite interesting, where you get a kind of older Damien starting to realize what he is. The third one, not so much. And to be honest, see, if I was to be back in time 2006 and I was the producer of this, I would have made it like a Halloween 2018, a direct sequel to the 76 movie.
That would have been
done it like a time jump where, we have a 30-year-old Damien or something like that. They did actually try to do that as a TV show.
I mean, that's a very that sort of idea is that's I guess more current day, the reboot sequel.
But this was a
like revisiting an idea without like retreading the ground.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
idea
like,
already tried.
The 2000s was all about the remake.
You got the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. I mean, I'm very interested that there's a prequel film coming out next year, which I'm very interested about.
Oh god.
But I mean, the only
do you know who's behind it? It's not David Gordon.
No,
Green, is it?
It's not. But the only reason I'm actually interested is it follows Father Brienne, which is the Patrick Thingamajig, the second Doctor's character, who is the priest that was born a Satanist and basically discovered his changing his mind, and that's why he's trying to help out. And I genuinely, rewatching that film, I kind of go, his character is really interesting for the short amount of time he's in it. So I would be interested. But yeah, the Omen 2006, it's such a waste of, just puts a bit of dirt on the original 76's movie.
And again, I do want to highlight that weird attitude in the early 2000s of the we are better than the past thing that was going on from like the prequels, like fixing like Star Wars being fixed and the effects being updated and stuff, like this whole idea of like, oh, we can do shit now that they couldn't do. We're better and we have more stuff. Like you can see that in a lot of the remakes and the stuff, and I'll talk about one.
Here just
has a
to
superiority complex.
Add dirt to it. The director John Moore after this went on to direct Max Payne, so that says everything.
Oh god, no!
Yeah.
Please, God, no!
And then A Good Day to Die Hard.
Wow, that's the best Die Hard movie.
He should never be behind the camera again. Get him out of here. Get him out.
Oh god.
Well, Gothal, what about you? What's your? You came on having no clue what we're doing, so you go ahead and you tell us yours.
That's my role in this whole podcast. I'm the
you're the wild card.
Himbo. Yeah, that's me. Basically, I want to talk about. I'm gonna keep the negative train rolling so we can end on a positive.
Okay. Nice.
And talk about Dawn of the Dead. Okay, so the original Dawn of the Dead.
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, I'm going to talk about Zack Snyder's remake of George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. So the original one,
controversial pick. I know that has a lot of fans.
I know a lot of people like this, but I hadn't actually seen the remake. I remember watching the original with some friends that really were into like old-fashioned horror and stuff, and I thought it was, it feels very much like an old movie, but it has like weird kind of like compassion and kind of like moments of just like, hey, think about things, you know, like it pauses a lot for you to kind of like try to feel, and especially for the zombies, weirdly enough, they're supposed to be the antagonists of the film. There's these people trapped in a mall, basically, and that kind of like overall plot carries over to the remake. But like it's this whole idea of like trying to criticize like consumerism and this weird like culture of just like, you know, taking humanity away from people, and it literally does that. It takes humanity away from people, shows us this monsters and this zombies, but then they portray them, you know, gathering in like the places where they used to gather, doing the things they used to do, and like for seconds there during the movie, even though there's so much death and they're like actively the antagonist, it really does like make you think about like, you know, these are used to be people and they have the memories of people, and they're kind of like wandering around as people.
Fragments of someone.
Yeah, like it is really sad. It's a really sad movie. It's not about like fun violence against like these non-humans, as like we'll see with a lot of like zombie stuff later on, which is really funny because this is one of the first kind of like big zombie movies and stuff like that. Like you see later on, like this whole zombie genre evolves into, oh, let's have fun, let's see how many different ways we can kill and mutilate these zombies, you know. It turns into things like Zombieland, which I think is a fantastic movie, but you know, it's very much about like, you know, it's the whole fun of the apocalypse, the release of like tension and stuff that it grants you. And like here, it's very sad, very sympathetic. It really makes you long for the world that was, in a way where like it also holds a mirror up to it. It's a very political movie, I would say. And its remake, it's 2004, I want to say, 2004? Yeah, 2004.
I think so.
A remake by Zack Snyder, is also a very political movie, but in a very, very different way. Yeah, I did not watch this movie. I watched, I think, a whole like video essay talking about the differences between these two movies, which prompted me to then watch this movie to see, hey, is like what they were saying true? Do I get the same vibe and stuff? Yeah. And holy shit, do I get the same vibe? So there's I watched the Maggie Mayfish video on the differences between these two movies, and holy fuck, she had kind of a point. I think it was like she's got like a whole deconstruction of Zack Snyder as a director, and amongst some of that stuff, they hit on this. I didn't know this movie existed. I'm kind of sad I watched it.
Oh wow, okay. Right.
It's a very mean movie. It's a very fucked up movie, especially having seen what recent events have brought with like the COVID pandemic and how like certain people reacted to it. This movie basically makes the point that the whole zombie apocalypse is happening because people are immoral and running away from the Bible. And it's and like it's all about violence and shit, and it kind of takes away from the whole idea of like deconstructing society and stuff. And like overall, I would say, like, you know, it's not like incompetently made. It is not a horrible movie where you're like, oh, this is fucking shit. It's just got like a really weird political ideas set in a kind of also like as if it has contempt for the original material. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying that's what it feels like to watch it. And not a big fan. A lot of the arcs are about like manliness and self-sacrifice and like, you know, that kind of like red pill bullshit. Of
it's like
I'm strong.
You gotta be a man.
Yeah. You gotta be a man. You gotta be a man. There's like this character where like his whole thing is that he's not man enough, so he dies horribly because, you know, you gotta stand up and be a man and truly like kill zombies and stuff. It's very
Zack
early 2000s
Snyder
stuff.
to a T though.
Yeah, it is. It is
That's
very much.
Zack Snyder to
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I do think I would probably get along with Zack Snyder. He seems like a very chill dude, but I do not enjoy his movies.
Yeah,
or
he
the
seems very
messages
cool.
of his movies. But yeah, this was one of those things. Probably I'll probably get shat on for criticizing this. But I don't think it's an incompetently made movie. I don't think it's like you watch it and you're like, what the fuck? This is like such a horrible movie that it doesn't do what it wants to do. It clearly does do what it wants to do. It manages to make the movie that Zack Snyder wanted to make. I just think that movie is dumb.
That is, you have just summed up Zack Snyder's problems as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
for his entire filmography.
Yeah.
It's competently made.
Yeah.
It looks good, but it's dumb.
It's kind of dumb. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. Kind of the thing. So it's also like early in his career, I believe. So it doesn't feel Zack Snyder-y enough. Like visually, it's not that pleasing. It's very grungy early 2000s with like the very high contrast. Everyone looks sweaty, but not in a good Indiana Jones way.
It does kind of have a Michael Bay look to it.
It does. That's why, we were discussing earlier about it, and I accidentally attributed this movie to Michael Bay. Because it does really have a Michael Bay look.
It does look like a Michael Bay film.
Yeah. It's got that like Transformer 1, push the contrast all the way to high in post kind of look. Or like the sun is hitting really, really hard, but they're not in New Mexico, so it doesn't. I don't know why. But so that's Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 version versus the 1978. I might be wrong here, but that's what Google says.
No, very, very well. We know what you're.
My Google is
Spanish
weird,
Google doesn't understand dates.
Spanish Google, yeah. Honestly, though, there's like I think it's because it chooses like the release date in Spain, which like the older you go, the farther away it is from the actual release date. Yeah.
The original Psycho just came out. Actually, it was quite an experience for Spanish cinema.
Yeah, we watched the remake first, and then the black and white one. It was quite a bold move, honestly.
Yeah, you're like, this remake's just gone back in time.
Lots of improvements, man. It's weird. Like, it takes it back, but, like, it also moves forward, you know? Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Well, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to do my positive one first. I want to end with my other one, right? So, I'm actually going, my good horror remake, one of the best horror remakes, in my opinion. The one that is kind of now more identified as the original, even though it's not, and that is 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Red Scare,
this was written by Philip Kaufman. Exactly, yes, Red Scare. Very good. And this is, the original was obviously in the mid-50s. It's a bit tamer than this and whatnot, but people kind of forget that one exists now because this remake was so beloved and so popular. And so, if you don't know what Invasion of the Body Snatchers is about, is basically you have Donald Sutherland's character Matthew, who he works for like an ecological, almost environmental part of like the government or something like that. He has like an office there. I can't specifically remember, but what's happening is slowly the human race is being duplicated and switched over with an alien counterpart. And you have, I think the whole film opens with someone being like, that's not my husband. And there's this psychologist character played by the late Leonard Nimoy, who I will just say this, when I saw this last year, what really took me aback by it was how good Leonard Nimoy is in this film. Right? Because I obviously had a really seen about Star Trek and a few like cameos and other stuff in that, but his performance is so good in this film. I don't know what it is, because he plays the psychologist character and he doesn't believe any of this nonsense that's going on. He's like, well, there's a problem going on in their head that they don't believe that that's their husband, and they don't believe this is such and such. This is a psychological issue, right? And he's firmly on that path. And I don't know if just that they just gave him the perfect role, so he just has this kind of uptight, very professional manner. But he plays it so well. I thought Leonard Nimoy was absolutely fabulous in this film. But then, of course, slowly, the town eventually, the city of San Francisco, slowly the human beings are outnumbered by these sort of zombie-esque counterparts, and the ones that do the big point and scream, which is an iconic image of
absolutely iconic.
Absolutely iconic one, yes.
100% it gives someone consent.
But like you're saying, Gothal, of course, there's absolutely that political reading of it. Imagine, there's like, the states is like, being taken over by like communist sympathizers and sort of believing that agenda.
I mean, we've talked about this kind of stuff before when we did our retrospective on like the history of horror and stuff. Like horror very much like reflects the fears, like the biggest fears of the time.
Yes.
And like this time in the US, like there was a genuine terror about these red people infiltrating, like, there's the communists, they're infiltrating our society, they're slowly corrupting us and trying to turn us over and stuff. Like, it was the height of the fucking Cold War. Like, this was genuinely very scary stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, it does, and I think there's a great scene in like there's like this baths or swimming baths or something, and like there's all these shower curtains and you're trying to there's a character creeping through. It's quite unsettling, and there's that paranoia feeling that I think the film is really successful in. There's the dramatic irony of we obviously know. I mean, we're seeing a film called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We know what's kind of going on, and there's that whole sort of frustration of other characters just be like, no, that's not it, and then we slowly see the city turn, which is always it's always quite interesting to see, and it creates a lot of tension and a lot of frustration in the viewer as well, which is always good to see. And there's just that very like last man standing feeling to it, of just this group getting smaller and smaller and trying to survive, even though through the impossible.
It also gives you that like vibe that like a lot of like children movies get quite well, which is like when you try to appeal to authority but nobody listens to you, like you're completely shunned, and like it's you against the world, because the systems that are supposed to protect you or that you're supposed to be able to count on are completely against you, and that really does create like a tension and a stress and like a really, and there's horrific kind of feeling.
There is a complete powerlessness to it, which makes the threat feel all that more terrifying. Is that you feel that these characters can't do anything about the situation they're in, and also, I mean, it boasts there's a great twist in the middle of the film, which I won't spoil, of course, if you have not seen the film, even though this is 45 years old now. And there's also, I will say this, I mean, like the final kind of climactic scene is a bit kind of shoddy now, like the action wise it's not great, but it does absolutely redeem it does absolutely redeem itself with its ending. The ending is perfect. I won't spoil that, of course, as well, but the ending is just absolutely brilliant.
I would say that ending is kind of iconic. I'm sure people have had it spoiled before.
It's really good. It's the one where you go, oh my, and then it ends, and you're like, oh god damn it. It's a great final ending. So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, iconic. If you haven't seen it, absolutely go see it. It's obviously not crazy like anything like by today's modern intense standards of like extreme gore or anything, but it's a good psychological horror.
Didn't Nicole Kidman do a remake of this movie at some point, like with her?
No, it's like a Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig one is. It's like it's not a full-on remake. It's like it's sort of taking like the idea
of it. Yeah.
Yes, it's a take, a sort of a spin of the concept, but it's not like a full-blown. We're doing this.
Because I haven't seen that one, so I have no idea if it's like any good or anything. Yeah,
it's not. It's more like between these two characters more than a bigger thing. Right. So Kyle, let's come on. Let's see what you got.
Right.
What's your good one?
So this is a bit more confusing because I don't think any of you haven't seen this. I've only just recently seen these films. And I'm going to be trying to explain why it's so good without giving too much away. So this is the Creep franchise, or just Creep. Okay? So the first Creep film came out in 2014. It is created by Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice, who in the first film, it is just the two of them. It's a found footage, both films are a found footage psychological horror, and I'll give you a quick recap-ish, or non-spoiler recap of how the first film is. But the issue is, to understand why it was so good, you kind of need to know something of one of the characters that gives it the whole plot away. Sadly. So, the first film basically follows Patrick Brice's Aaron character who's a filmographer, basically being paid a lot of money to spend a day with Mark Duplass's Joseph, because Joseph basically has got an inoperable brain tumor. He knows he's going to die, and his wife's just about to give birth to a son, and he's like, I want my son to know me, and and I want my son to see like how I do things and everything, and he's like, I want my son to see the real me, and it's just a fun between the two of them. Yeah, as you can imagine, it's a horror film. Maybe things are not the same as things. Maybe,
the real
maybe,
him might not be very nice.
Maybe the real Joseph is just like,
it's a bit of a creep.
He's a creep, and maybe he likes to do things, which.
Play with
it's
Legos,
annoying, but I'm gonna have to say he is a murderer.
Yes.
But how does the first one go out? You have to find that bit out. Basically, the second creep.
Yes.
And I was like, right, okay. They made a second one. Is it just going to be the same thing? And
I was going to ask, how do you go to a number 2
yeah,
from there?
so the writers do this really cool... Well, the writer... Well, no, it's both of them, actually. It's Mark and Patrick. They do this really incredible thing of going, right, we want to do it. It came off really well, and obviously, like I said to Liz, it was probably made for like $1,000 or some shit like that. It's just two guys and a camera. And I went in to watch it, and basically the film starts with Patrick's character, Joseph, who is a serial killer. Who cares? And basically he's like realised he's having a midlife crisis, and he's unfulfilled with his killings now. And he's a bit like, what's the point? Like, what am I? And basically then what happens is, obviously in the first film, the first film was a classic him kind of luring somebody in, okay? And then the second film follows YouTuber Sarah, who is played by Desire Akavana, awesome name, and she is this YouTuber on Craigslist that basically likes to go around Craigslist ads, answering Craigslist ads, and will like record the interactions he has with like weird people. Like sometimes it'll be like, somebody puts up a Craigslist saying, "Could you come and like hold me like my mother did?" And she would go and record it. And basically, she get answers to Craigslist from Joseph and goes in, and in the first like 5 minutes, Joseph was like, "Yep, so I'm a serial killer, and I just don't feel any purpose." And then it's like, and she just doesn't believe him, so she just goes along with it. And then like the classic kind of stereotype, and then other stuff I won't say in the spoilers. But I was just like, what a good way of just turning it around, just having the guy instead of the first one where it was kind of like, what is happening? He kind of just goes, so I am a serial killer. He's like, I'm pretty good at it, but I'm just something's missing in my life. And then because of Sarah just not believing him, he kind of opens up more, and it's a kind of, and sometimes you actually feel sad for him, and you're like, oh, I really feel bad.
So add layers to the serial killer.
Oh, it adds layers, and then obviously the film it does have some good. It's still got some good scares, and I mean, Mark Duplass, you should watch these films for his performance as Joseph. He is so good at it, and he is just so like maniacal and insane. It's genuinely like just insanity. Like his performance is pure insanity. And they have said that they're wanting to do a third film, and they said they were going to do a third film. They started writing it in 2020, and they're like, we're not doing it unless we are actually happy with the script. Like,
imagine that though, guys.
Because they're trying to do another. The second film was such a it wasn't a huge change because obviously it's still the found footage element.
No, but it is like
keep that.
It is like a different, like that's the thing. Like instead of doing, hey, let's do the first movie again, for the sequel. They did do something new, and you don't want to fuck that up by doing something like the same.
Like, yeah,
for a third time.
you're not having your Halloweens where it's just Michael Myers doing the same senseless
all over again.
killing, you know.
But now in a hospital.
And like, as much as I've kind of said,
hey, I like Halloween.
Maybe you're talking about Halloween Kills, where it was actually
good
it was actually that other guy. With that guy that doesn't look anything like Michael Myers, this old crippled man. That could be him. Oh. But I really do push it. The first one is 77 minutes long. The second one's an hour and 20 minutes. You could do both in one sitting, and it'd be shorter than Killers of the Flower Moon, like or Endgame. Like genuinely, like. I genuinely think that you'll get some good scares. You know, there are some really good scares, and it's such an interesting character study at times. Of like the two characters are always present, and I really am hoping they do a really good third one. I was thinking about this. I genuinely see them trying to bring in streaming into it. Like I can imagine the third one would be like somebody would be like a Twitch streamer. Because they're kind of going up the ranks. But anyway, Creep. They're both on Netflix, by the way. Go for a watch.
Okay, great.
Nice.
Perfect. Right, Gonzalo, let's get to yours then.
Yes, so even though I'm pretty sure I've talked about this movie before because it's really good and I like it a lot, we're going to talk about The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Yes, this is my positive remake. This is a remake of The Thing from Another World, which was 1951, directed by Christian Nibbe. I have not seen The Thing from Another World.
You might see the original, but like actually the original is much better.
So that's the thing. So I'm not talking about an objective improvement. I'm just talking about a remake that I very much enjoy. I have not seen the original. I'm sure it was fantastic. It could be completely atrocious. I have no idea. But this remake is very different from the original. The original is more like the creature is more like a Frankenstein-y thing and stuff. And this remake incorporates a lot of like Lovecraftian elements into it. Goes hard with the whole like at the Mountains of Madness kind of vibe. So if you haven't seen The Thing, it's a great film. You have a bunch of researchers in the Arctic who are basically in one of the few livable bases that are in the Arctic, and one day a helicopter runs up shooting at a dog and then crashes, and they have no friggin' clue what's going on. They go to check out their neighboring base, which is really far off, and realize that the whole thing is completely gone, deserted, blown up, completely destroyed. And nearby they find the remain frozens of what looks to be a sort of spaceship. It seems like they found something, they dug it out, it melted out, and now everybody's gone or dead in horrific ways. So, it takes this whole idea of like, small cast in like a small kind of environment, trapped with a monster. It's very much the whole cat and mouse thing, and we have a fantastic monster brought to life with incredibly beautiful and amazing practical effects. It's a really tense, really good film. There's this creature that once it kills somebody, it can become them and twist and form into them, but also is like made up of different things, and like it's really like if Ditto was absolutely horrifying. Yes, not a great time for everyone involved, and it's a really good suspenseful movie up until the end. I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end, and I recommend you watch it slowly or pay attention, because the end might not be what it seems like it is. And it's a really fun film. It's one of those classic kind of like horror movies, like you got this cast slowly being taken out one by one until just a few remain. And do they defeat the creature? Do they get rid of it? Do they survive? You should watch it. It's great. 10 out of 10.
And of course, we talked about this when we did our classic horror episode last year, but Of course, the practical effects and the incredible visual effects, practical effect work in this is just amazing.
Oh my god, like, things as simple as, like, you know, that spider head scene in the ER where, like, the legs are coming out of the head. They just pulled them back in and reversed the footage, and it looks fucking stellar and wonderful. And, like, yeah, lots of puppets, lots of animatronics, lots of prosthetics. It really does create, like, this weird feeling of, like, it makes the creature feel more tactile, more horrific, more like, it's very much body horror when you look at that creature, and it really wouldn't work as a flowy CGI smoothly animated thing, which is why the remake of the remake that replaced the practical effects with CGI ones, no matter how good the CGI effects were, which in this case were not, it's fucking terrible, and I do not recommend it.
It was a prequel, wasn't it? It was a prequel.
Yeah,
it's a prequel reboot.
It's like a prequel reboot, because it's supposed to be about what takes place in the first...
Yeah. I think that's the only clever thing about that film, is that it ends with the helicopter dog chase.
Yes, exactly.
So you have everybody in the cinema go,
oh, it's what happened before. Yeah. That was pretty clever. Like, it's supposed to be, like, I think this came out 2011. Yeah, 2011. Yeah, this is supposed to be, like, what happens in that first base where they discover the alien. You thinking it's a reboot, but then it turns out it's a sequel. But, yeah, great idea, execution. Yeah, sorry.
Have you seen the prequel? The remake, prequel, reboot, whatever,
yes,
I guess it
yes,
is.
I have.
You've seen it, right? Okay, I've not. No. So.
It's not horrible. Like, it's just
forgettable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember much of the movie. I don't remember any of the named characters. The most I remembered is some of the CG stuff. They actually do use a couple of like elements that are actually practical and stuff. They have this whole mangled body
CGI
and stuff.
Over it, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah. Like, they kind of ruin it with it. I'm again talking about this whole, like, weird thing, like, weird superiority complex in, like, the early 2000s, where it's like, we can do it, but we can do it so much better with this new technology that we have. Stick to the John Carpenter one. It's a classic for a reason, and the twist ending in the John Carpenter one is definitely a lot better. And it's only a twist ending if you're paying attention. If you're not, it just feels like an ending. But, you know, it's, I had to watch it twice until I realized what the fuck was going on there, so, you know,
Well, very good. Well, I had to end on this, right, because...
Yes. You're going to end us on a sour
obviously,
note.
the show today is horror, reboots, remakes, and sequels.
Yes.
So I'm going to do 2 for 1 here and do reboot sequels.
Whoa.
And that, of course, is Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends as a double bill. Because David Gordon Green's horrendous Exorcist sequel, Exorcist Believer, is out. So I thought I would celebrate it by talking about David Gordon Green's Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends.
I wanted to ask what you thought about the Exorcist reboot. I'm glad to know now.
I have not seen the Exorcist reboot. Because when we did a horror thing last year, Gonzalo, I said Exorcist, one of my favorite horror films.
Yes, I know.
Absolutely. I even saw the 50th anniversary screening of it last week.
Nice.
In the cinemas. It was great. And I love that film, so I'm not going to actually put myself through Exorcist Believer. Even sorry people listen to the show. I know I watch a lot of shit and a lot of stuff, but I am not putting myself through that. I'm not wasting my time with this because of these 2 films. So, Halloween Kills, me and Kyle have memed and joked about this many times, is an utterly stupid film that is terrible, but hilarious terrible. One that so bad it is actually very funny. There are some hilarious kills, characters are complete idiots, the whole plot is just moronic about, just people obsessing over this tragedy that happened 40 years ago.
40 years ago tonight.
40 years ago, that's repeated a billion times. Evil dies tonight. 40 years ago, just on a loop.
I love how little the people in that town have going on, that they all know that it's the exact anniversary tonight of that one thing.
No one can. All the stupid, like, bringing back minor characters, the whole.
That's how real life works, though, right, guys? Don't you guys
I'm not even gonna explain.
obsess?
Just watch
about like a tragedy that happened 40 years ago to the day in your local town. Do you guys not obsess about that stuff constantly and remember it and repeat it over and over?
We can't just celebrate Halloween. We can't just go trick or treating and stuff. We have to think about this. Just watch the bar scene on YouTube. It makes me laugh every time because of just how ridiculous and stupid it is. But it's absolutely stupid. But then you get to Halloween Ends. Yeah. Which is terrible.
I do want to caveat for anyone that hasn't seen you guys talk about this before. You actually did really like the first one of that.
Sequel trilogy.
I
think
really
it's good.
Yeah, Kale's a big fan of it. I think it's good as well. I think it's good as well. I think it's decent. I think it's a solid reboot sequel, I guess, and one that really should have just left it. That I think actually, the ending of that wasn't designed to make sequels.
No, but it made money, perfectly. Guys. It made money. You forget.
Yes, of course, it made money.
Therefore, more.
Yeah. But anyway, you then get to the final one of this trilogy, Halloween Ends, which has a concept. This one actually has an idea behind. Well, actually, I guess Halloween Kills had an idea behind it, but it just portrayed it in a really moronic way about mob mentality and people, the crowds becoming monsters. Don't do that with a goddamn Michael Myers movie. Yeah. Anyway, with Halloween Ends, that has a concept about basically evil having a sort of a carrying on, having a legacy of evil, and the classic argument of I can't remember which philosopher said it really bad at me, of is evil, is it within us, or is it created around us? Is it created through upbringing and the surroundings?
Nurture versus
and the
nature, basically, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great. But obviously this wasn't really properly planned to be a trilogy, otherwise they would have set this up in the last two, which they don't. So then you get Corey, Kyle has a poster of Corey in his room because
Corey
how much he loves Corey.
Corey is the greatest protagonist in cinema history, and I will stand by this.
Yeah. The idea that it's going with doesn't work with the character they have. It just isn't threatening or scary at all. Michael Myers is just an old man who actually can't really be bothered killing much of this. He's like, oh god. It's like he's like, they found my home, the camera's there, I've got to kill someone, I guess. He's just like there's this amazing scene, the amazing fight scene between Corey and Michael Myers. And yet, like the whole film is just muddled because it didn't really think about these ideas before, and then when it's doing them now, but it also wants to be a big conclusion to Michael Myers and Laurie's rivalry and legacy. So then it just becomes a complete mess. It has this stupid romance thing which is written terribly, and has this amazing cut which Kyle loves to talk about as well, where you to imagine Michael Myers and Corey romantically holding each other on a motorbike.
I remember
the editing in this film is that genius.
If that happened, I would have actually given that film a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And
oh god,
the final climactic fight and between Laurie and Michael Myers in this is like literally two old pensioners just smacking each other about, and the finale is hilarious. I'm going to spoil it right now. Michael Myers finally dies, after getting properly brutalized, and to really kill him off, they decide to strap him to the top of a car. The whole town gathers in this what do you call it again?
Group murder? Group execution?
It's like a funeral.
Like a wake.
I can't remember.
Like a giant kind of walking.
I guess.
Like a wake. Yeah, like a procession.
Yeah, the whole town a procession. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Yeah. A whole procession, and then they just throw him in a goddamn grinder, a car grinder for throwing old cars.
An industrial shredder.
It's so
didn't they have
grinder.
didn't they have a wood chipper? I feel like that would have been way less.
It was an industrial wood chipper, man. Honestly.
Yeah, just to show that he's really, really dead, and it just sucked. Those are the two worst films I saw back to back, pretty much on each year.
Yeah. You guys,
but
really lost
bad
them.
in two different ways.
Yeah.
Bad and just. It's just quite incredible how. I think they're really good examples of just
the other one offensive bad.
boring, bad.
Yeah.
But it does have its moments, to be fair, of being really funny. And look, from then on, the Halloween series is. There's
tarnished.
Just I know it's going to get rebooted again at some point, but I just can't take it seriously after that. Honestly, David Gordon Green, what a guy! I love you. Understandably, it's just unbelievable, and that's why I'm not going to see The Exorcist, because of how bad those things were. So yes, that will about wrap up today's show. So thank you very much, Gonzalo, for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure,
and thank you, Kyle, as well.
It was a pleasure until you brought up Halloween, and now I'm sad.
Look, on next week's show, we are finally talking about Martin Scorsese, because Killers of the Flower Moon is releasing next Friday.
Are you sure? Do you want to say that? In case
I am positive that is what we are doing.
Are you sure it's coming out?
So we're going to be talking.
100% sure.
Next Friday, and then we'll have
Friday. Okay.
And then we have. I've got it all planned.
Wait, are we going to review the movie before it comes out, or are we doing the episode after?
No, how do you?
Oh no, because we're doing the whole filmography, and then we're doing
review the film before it comes out.
Then we're doing then we're reviewing Killers of the Flower. What?
That's why. That's why.
Anyway,
that's why I was confused. That's why I was confused.
Scorsese next week, and then the week after Killers of the Flower. Got it.
Yes.
Good.
Got it.
There we go. I've told everyone that's the plan. So yes, we'll have that. We'll have our Martin Scorsese discussion next week, and we just give our opinion on all those horror reboots, remakes, sequels, and sequel reboots, as well as All of Us Strangers. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.
Beep beep boop boop.